Cloud. All right. Everyone else is shy. I'm the only one showing my picture here. Let's see, share screen. Here we go. All right, everyone see the presentation?
Nope, we see the minutes.
Oh, thank you. That's what I meant. Yes. So I say, know what I mean, not what I say.
Yeah.
All
Trying
right.
to figure out what's in your head.
Yeah, good luck. So it is September 7th, 2021. Welcome to the CN4J technical alignment call. A link to the meeting minutes is in the chat, and please click on the link, add your name to the list of attendees. And it is everyone's kind of shared responsibility to take notes. And I will, let's see, oh, this meeting's being recorded. It will be uploaded to the YouTube, as will the chat. All right, so thanks everyone for joining. So as I was saying before, a couple of folks may have joined. A little bit of a light agenda today. I think we're pretty close to where we want to be with the slide deck. So let's review the slide deck with where we're at. And then I added just a list of items that we might want to prioritize. I expect that list to change. It's just a way to kind of get the creative juices flowing that we're gonna have to cover in this call, right? Going forward until they're resolved. Not a complete list. If there's other topics that we need to kind of resolve in this venue that we think are high priority, add them to that list, and then maybe we can prioritize about what we wanted to discuss and tackle. Okay. Does this agenda sound okay?
Sure.
All righty.
Yeah.
So let me go back to the slide deck here. And sorry, just make sure it's copied. I'm also going to paste it up here.
Hey, John.
Yes.
I'm just wondering if there's been a, well, it just appears that the representation from the Jakarta working group is light, albeit it's confusing because many are members of both Microprofile and Jakarta.
Okay.
But Will, for instance, hasn't been on these calls for a couple installments. So I don't know if it's just coincidence how it's worked out, or if there really is something to look into with regards to seeing that the Jakarta steering committee knows about these calls.
So that's a good point.
Just to add, I just made a copy of this meeting into the Jakarta steering committee calendar as well. So maybe that would help. I'm not sure. For following up on Paul's comments.
Seems like we have low attendance today, just in general.
Yeah, people may have taken a long weekend, but yeah, we'll see. So
like we have none of the jugs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why, for the agenda, it's a bit of a review of where we're at and maybe some deep dive topics for us to dig into that we can kind of prioritize amongst ourselves before the next call. I was on, PTO. I took Friday off, and obviously yesterday was off, so I didn't get a reminder email sent to the CN4J alias. So I'll try to remember to do that next time. I didn't want to send it this morning. It's kind of too late. So I will do that before the next call. So good point, Paul. And thanks, Tanya, for adding it to the Jakarta Steering Committee calendar. Okay, so where we are at, sorry, I'm gonna double check the chat here. We've got a mission statement that we've created. I haven't seen any comments on this recently. CN4J technical alignment provides a venue to address technical relationship between Jakarta and Microprofile and defines technical goals consistent with the messaging statement around cooperation. So we defined that like early on. I think it's probably sufficient based on prior conversations. Okay.
Yes, John and everyone. In here, I had added a while back the email forum, and I wondered if we can re-add it because it's not only about having these calls, but also using the written forum. I wonder if others consider it important as well.
Oh, this presentation doesn't really talk about venues, mailing lists, or this call.
Yeah, I don't see a reference to the video call in here anywhere.
So and venues change, and then we have to always kind of come back up and change, like especially logistics. But so I kind of prefer to leave it out. But like I said, I have to send out reminders to the CN4J alias, and then what I normally do is I send out a reminder to the Microprofile alias, linking to the CN4J email. I just, because of, like I said, PTO and a long weekend, I didn't do that. Send out the reminder.
Yeah, we almost missed it. Same with
Yeah. All right. So last week we kind of came up with this list of 4 technical principles. It's not quantity that necessarily matters, right? It's being to the point. These are the 4 that we came up with. I don't know if there's necessarily a 5th or anyone else has any additions that they want to make to this list. Okay, and we can always come back based on perhaps these other conversations we're going to have. Additional principles might kind of flesh themselves out, right? And if we need to, kind of come back to this. Okay, governance. We haven't really talked a whole lot about this slide. I put this slide in again, just kind of based on the early discussions, and added a couple of bullets. I don't know if it's sufficient, but CN4J technical alignment meetings operate independent of the Jakarta EE and Microprofile working groups, and major decisions are independently voted on by those working groups. Right? Those are kind of the 2 high-level governance aspects. And I don't know if there's anything else anyone wants to add.
Well, we have our
Three.
Go ahead, Kevin. Sorry.
Nope, I'm not talking.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
I saw your thing highlight.
It did.
Yeah. Yeah, we had our proposal process. So, do we want to make note of that? We've agreed on it in another document, but
do you have
yeah, the proposal has to be sponsored by a member of each working group before it could be considered for votes.
So do you have a link to that? Do we have verbiage somewhere?
Yeah, it's in the
Yeah,
minute.
it's when we
Under the-
our very first meetings, we nailed that
Okay.
stuff down.
John, you can go into the external drive hosted by the Eclipse Foundation Microprofile community. In there is a CN4J folder with the minutes, and it's either in the first, I think it's in the second call.
Please don't ask me to navigate Google Drive.
I will
It's a
find it.
personal weakness. Thank you. Yeah, it is. I've got like 3 drives
Find
named
it and share it
Microprofile
with you.
community drive. So
It's in that one.
yeah. So I
Yeah,
apologize.
We'll have to find it. It was the first thing we did before we even did the marketing stuff.
I am finding it right now.
I gotcha. I do recall what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Going back that far.
and basically it was that we wanted to have a process for making proposals just so the 2 working groups weren't having to vote on things that didn't have even support in both the communities. You know, like if someone just popped up out of the middle of nowhere and said it should work like this, I mean, like, there needs to be a way of saying, well, you need to get a buy-in from both communities in the form of a proposal before either working group is required to vote on it.
Right. I'm going to put this in here as a placeholder. Okay, I don't know how long it's going to take to find that, by the way. So
Yeah, that's all right.
well, yeah, I think Amelia's looking for it. We will find that.
Here,
and you got it?
I added the drive. And now I'm going to look into the minutes, but you have the drive where, and it's under the steering committee. So I'm looking
All
right now, but I found the drive. This,
All right, and in the meantime, if anyone has any other topics that we think that we need to discuss on the next call, this is likely going to be a short call. Because I don't know if we have sufficient folks on this call to dig into these in any detail, but these are topics that we're probably going to have to discuss.
Yeah, I found it. It's in the first link. So what I'll do is it's really long. So making it be like a short thing for a slide deck is probably difficult to summarize it completely in a. I'm sure it's possible, but anyway, it's pretty long. So
Is there a summarization that we could provide? Like,
yeah, I would just say something like the proposal process, proposals must be sponsored by a member of each working group before put up to, sponsored was the word we used.
Yeah, sorry, auto completion there.
Yeah.
By a working group?
A member of each working group.
A member.
I recommend, because in those minutes, we wrote operating processes. I recommend we add a link of the minutes, because it's not only that, it lists a bunch of other things that we discussed and approved, and it's not going to be only one document. So it's pretty lengthy. It also talks about non-goals, which super important.
Okay.
So John, I have shared the minutes. Here is
Is
from
that-
February 2nd. So just, if you add it, we can make a bullet point of each single thing if we want to, but that is maybe suffices. In the chat, you see the link.
Right.
Yeah, whatever. Go ahead, John. Sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just trying to find the right link because Emily also has a link to a
No,
specific
the last
meeting.
one. It's February 2nd.
That?
February
And
2nd.
click on that. Okay.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
that's the one I think she.
Yeah, if you scroll down,
It says operating.
right there. What? See where it says in the middle of the page?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that whole section is our agreed process for submitting the proposals that we hammered out. So like I said, it's pretty long.
Yeah.
There's also, if you want to flip back just momentarily, I mean, we're diverging from technical, but it is governance, right? So
Yeah.
if you flip back to it,
Sorry. I'm going to paste the link in here so we don't lose it.
okay, perfect. Scroll down in the next section. There's also some agreed non-goals. So all of this is great. It's titled minutes, so no one will ever be able to find it. You know what I mean? So we should probably put that in some sort of document that said, like operating procedure or something like that, or Microprofile or CN4J scope and processes or something. Give it a name, you know what I mean? A document name rather than a minutes name. We can keep the minutes, but we should maybe just copy it into a document so it has a document name that we can actually find and refer to by name.
Plus one.
Probably we want to use these as guides, right? And then try to hammer out, well, you use that word, what we think is this exactly what we want? I'm reading things like this was not explicitly discussed, or stuff was added. So, referring to this as minutes is, I appreciate the clarity, but I don't think we don't. Not that people look at it very much, but I don't think we're running approved minutes, nor are we working on a quorum basis. So I would suggest we use this as the starting point, and then we figure out what that, what we actually want. I mean, I'm certainly behind proposals coming from both working groups, noting that many of us are actually in both working groups. We do want to work out a process that I think, we agree to now, right?
Just to clarify, Ed, we did mutually vote on those minutes, and we did do everything that you suggested.
So we have quorum, and we had, I mean, I don't remember us taking roll and having quorum on any of these. I mean, if you say we did, we're like, okay.
Well, we had to have
I mean,
quorum.
I was in the meeting, so.
Yeah,
I'm not saying I don't understand this. Go ahead.
we had quorum respectively in each working group when we voted on the minutes.
So are you saying we should take these as this is what we must adhere to?
Yeah, that was the point of us all getting together to decide these things. We wrote them all down. Then we deliberately put them in front of each steering committee, and was a formal vote to approve those minutes.
I mean, you do need to keep in mind that it seems like for the last couple minutes, there certainly hasn't been good attendance from the Jakarta side, and
Or voting, yeah. We haven't been
Yeah,
ratifying.
not
votes
taking
for the
away
last
from your
couple of
point, David, just observing that the discussions, particularly this one, you don't necessarily have Jakarta representation, albeit those that are present in both communities.
Right.
Yeah.
But we do have agreement on how to put together. We do have agreement on how to make something go forward, which is we agreed on a proposal process. We used it immediately for, so we came together, we had that meeting, we agreed on a process. There was a pretty good amount of attendance. It went to both steering committees for a vote. Both steering committees voted. We then immediately put that process into practice. When we did the marketing proposal, Will drafted it. I sponsored it. It went through a couple on the Microprofile side, went through a couple revisions. Then we came together and we acted on it. So I'm like, we absolutely have unambiguously agreed on a process and gone through the proper voting. We even then mutually voted on the marketing materials once finished. So we've executed this document. We just didn't go and actually start hammering out individual technical goals, but we do have a governance model.
And I remind to everyone that those two calls were private. There were more than 20 people attending the calls, and they are listed. A few did not write their names, but we have more than 20 people. And what I remember is that we spent the entire time on the call discussing this. I remember Kenji being awake at 1 a.m, telling us why he doesn't like having to be the same group, the same member pushing a project without the other member from a different member from the other project. There need to be some balance. And I thought that this was it. It would be, if we decide to rewrite it, it would be like we are wasting the time we wasted, or are choosing to waste the time of everyone that attended those calls and worked extremely efficient on writing the operational and non-operational agreements.
I didn't quite
Okay, so I'm
understand.
trying to-
Possibly I was not on that meeting. Then the voting was done. So the voting for this had happened, especially for that, or we were just voting for the minutes which contained that for the meeting where these documents been discussed.
And Dimitri, the voting occurred online via each forum. In Microprofile votes public, but the steering committee from the Jakarta side votes privately. So everything, there was no vote online during the calls. The workaround was done in the calls, and the voting happened in each independent group.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
No, totally cool. Great question.
Okay. I guess regarding this item, are there any next steps? Maybe we just have to go back and each review the process that's listed.
Why would we
And I'm not
waste
saying we
our
have to do
time?
it here.
Thought
No,
we
I'm not
just
saying do it here.
Sorry, I thought we just summarize the process and then just make more people remember them. I think we did go through and discuss in greater details.
Yes, that would be a waste of
All right.
time. Can we do copy paste of this document
Or
into
put
a
a,
PDF?
put a link in there, I guess.
Yeah.
Nah, put a
John
link. Yeah, I'm not
already
going to copy paste. Yeah, I just put it in the meeting minutes. Sorry, in the in the slide notes, a link to this operating process, and we can review these on our own individually.
Yeah, I do
So
still
let me just
recommend
double
that we
check.
give it that document a name.
Yes, me too.
So we're not having to answer this question. Is that just minutes of things we discussed and everyone voted on that we agreed that's what we discussed? Versus that's what we agreed that's the actual process.
Well, I guess that is.
If there's doubt, then we probably need to vote again, but
And I have no problem pulling them out into a separate document.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying these aren't good principles. I just don't recall us adopting them via a resolution that this is how we're working, right? Or whatever formalism. I don't remember that, right? I remember us, slaving away on the slide deck. But
yeah, that was later.
and my recollection was this was all just so we could get together and start talking about what we were going to be doing, not so much how we would be operating going forward. And I'm not saying that I disagree with these, what's written here. I'm just not sure that we've, I don't remember them being as defining as you and Amelia do, David.
Well, read the minutes. I mean, like, we'll put that together, right? It's really detailed. We hammer that out over like, I want to say 3 meetings or 2 meetings at least. And in the agenda for the meeting was to hammer out a process where we could, make votes happen and come to agreement. And like I say, we used it immediately. So the understanding from at least Will and myself was that we had come to agreement on a process and that we did decide to use it and that we followed our process when we put together the proposal to come out with the marketing slide deck.
Yeah, so to Amelia's earlier point, I'm looking at the February 16th meeting minutes. It's just saying we both have to go off and vote on these.
Correct. And what I remember of the second call on the 16th is that they were back to back and we hammered the non-goals in the second call. The first call was used only on operation points. And then the second call was used mostly on non-goals. And it was very lengthy discussed. The calls are not recorded because members wanted to have that privacy. So there is no way for us to share those things. That's the bad part about not recording and not having a public call. That now we might have to redo the work. I'm not okay. I would be okay to do copy paste and then send it to the committees for the approval of a new document to say this is what we have and move forward. But rewriting that work and doing it again, the plus 20 people that are not joining these calls will be I consider it a little bit of an insult.
Don't think yeah, redo the whole thing. Besides, I think is we had if I remember correctly, we had this lengthy conversation, and then Will and David and use the process to create the first proposal. So clearly we have been using that process.
Yeah, sorry, I'm a little bit quiet here. I'm digging back through the microprofile meeting minutes to find the vote.
I don't need to derail this meeting. I'm sorry, I didn't.
No, Ed, it's
No,
totally
you're not. You're not.
no, it's totally okay.
If there's doubt, we should discuss it. I mean, like, you know what I mean?
We should discuss it in the alliance, in the CN4J. We should
Well,
send this, and that's we
This
should
is a
send
fun,
it.
this is a fun, if we need to, I'm pointing out that I think it's uncomfortable to have so much agreement titled minutes. And I think Ed's underscoring a reason why that my discomfort is there, because
Yes.
if it's titled minutes, it cannot be, it can be easily misinterpreted as that was simply discussion and not agreement on a process.
Exactly. Yep.
And so I think there is value if we need to pull this out, put it in a document with the title and vote on it again. I'm okay with that. I think it would be a good thing. If we were to start from scratch, creating a new proposal process as if we didn't agree, well, then I wouldn't really be excited to spend the time all over again. Not to say that we can't change things, but you know, I wouldn't want to starting from scratch.
Can we do copy paste and send the new document to the CN4J for consumption in execution by the two groups?
Or just ratification, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's resolution.
Re-ratify it just so it's more clear.
Mhm.
It's I don't know, it's kind of the first two was not recorded. I vaguely remember like there's a vote on the call as well. So it's basically it's who disagree.
Right, yeah, we did do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the mailing list, so we must have approved the meeting minutes during a call.
Yeah, unfortunately, it wasn't.
We did, we should have minuted it on the call.
Yeah.
Here
Sure.
it says it's going to be the minutes for these meetings would be distributed for review and electronic vote approval by both steering committees.
Yeah, they were. We literally.
Which list did you
voted.
look in? Because I don't know we had our working group list.
I'm looking in the microprofile working group list. That's a good point.
I think it might have
Actually.
been the other list. I don't know if we had that list yet.
All right, so let's take a look at that. I'll dig into this and see what I can find.
John, we
All right,
voted
and
in the
I'll bring it up on the
microprofile working
CN4J.
group. John, we voted in the microprofile working group for microprofile, and the steering committee for Jakarta voted in the private melodies of them.
Yeah, I can't find a meeting. I'm just looking through the archives. I can't see a vote title that would reflect a CN4J meeting minute vote.
Let me.
For that
I think
time
we
frame.
did vote on the call though. So it would have to be somewhere in our late February.
This is, let's see, this is the February 2nd. This is the February 16th meeting minutes. Right? And this is where we say we would do it electronically. So
there's a ballot. Amelia started on the 12th. It's on the list. Is this microprofile-wg at eclipse.org list? Is that?
yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm looking for it. Do you have a title?
Jakarta EE ampersand microprofile joint messaging proposal.
Okay, let me see if I could do it.
That doesn't sound like it's the
Joint.
minutes.
The dates. Oh, here we go.
March 3rd.
Here's a March 2nd one I see.
It also says ballot, but I don't actually see ballots.
All right.
Anyway, it's all back then.
Yeah, let me see if I can dig this up. And I'll post something to the CN4J mailing list. Let me take a note to myself here. Okay. And where's my task list? Okay, there we go. Took a note to myself to go look this up. I'll dig this up and see what I can find. And I'm gonna move on to the next agenda item.
Sure.
John, to look for.
John, I'll forward you this. You sent around a summary of the vote. I'll send you. I'm forwarding to.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Question I have is,
Sorry, Ed, are you sending that via email?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thanks.
I have to look up. I don't have. I'd have to go look up sorry, I have to go look up the web archive link, and I don't have that right here.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to dig up too during the call here, and it was difficult. Yeah, Amelia.
yeah, my recommendation is, I think we just tackled something super important about previous work, and it's 10:06. There was not a reminder for this call. We didn't even push it via media due to the holidays. I recommend we stop now before we go into namespace and Jakarta config and whatever else, because as mentioned before, there was no reminder. Even, it's not only about the United States being on holidays, but no formal announcement on this call the week before. And I think we just need to stop now and acknowledge it. And we will do better next time. If we continue to do this and have another 24 minutes, it seems to me a waste, because we will be talking about among ourselves and not, be inclusive and a little bit more careful.
Okay. Yep. Okay, so a prioritized list of items for us to discuss, right? So we're kind of closing down on the technical aspect. Let me figure out the meeting minutes and the voting on that. We can discuss what to do next. I'll do that before the next call. And then comes down to like the rubber hitting the road, right? Kind of saying, right, what's the detailed things that we think we need to discuss? And I just threw down 3: namespace, Jakarta config, and then repository access. This was brought up at the end of last meeting, and commit rights when moving a spec, because they both handle projects differently. On Jakarta config, it's not that we discussed Jakarta config here, but there are things coming out of Jakarta config, out of that discussion, that impact what we're doing here, right? Like, what's the namespace going to be? How are we going to handle, bullet number 3? So what big ticket items do we think we need to discuss coming up?
You mean on next call?
Yes.
We can leave it, the 3 of them like that for agenda, and then we can pick and choose, or people can send it via the forum, written forum, and say +1 on this one. Do you see? We can just say, what do you want to discuss on next call, and have a doodle pool. I would recommend a doodle pool with the 3 choices and move forward. And that will set up the tone for next call. Very practical.
We need to spell out what we are going to discuss. So for the namespace strategy, we need to spell. From here? Are you saying we're moving us back from Microprofile to Jakarta? Do we need to change the namespace? That's
or vice versa.
right, or the move, yeah, or move the Jakarta. So basically is that, yeah, doesn't namespace need to be updated. So the second one, Jakarta config. So what is that the Jakarta we are going to focus on what are we plan with the Jakarta config, or so
Well, I don't
basically,
want to overreach on this bullet because we know that there's a conversation still happening, right, on the Jakarta config calls, and I don't mean to replicate anything here, but at some point, you know, there's going to have to be a more concrete discussion of that. You know, what's going to happen there, I guess.
Shouldn't we expand
And
that bullet to be
that
Jakarta
is-
config and microprofile config? Right?
yeah,
I'm
Sounds-
suggesting that we should discuss things in general. Jakarta config, if you want to discuss Jakarta config, please come to Jakarta config work
Yeah.
group meeting and discuss it there. I don't like then we discussing Jakarta config in different working groups. There should be only one place to
Yeah.
discuss it.
Plus one, Dimitri.
Who's that saying? Yeah.
Yeah, in general, yeah, I agree. You know, like I said, when I put that bullet there, it was to stimulate the creative juices, but it's also things are going to not fall out, but be natural discussions here in the CN4J based on that. And these other two bullets, I think, are probably
Okay,
representative
I just
of
want
that,
to,
right?
okay, we deleted that so quickly. I didn't
No,
get
we
a
didn't.
chance to respond at all. Are we not able to talk about actual technology and where we go together as two working groups? Because if we're not going to do that, there's no point in the alliance.
yeah, I think it has is a good merit to talk about a relationship Jakarta config and microprofile config. One thing I can think of, at least the roadmap and also technical alignment, and the what does it mean for the future of the microprofile config. So at least everybody in this CN4J, everybody interested in this topic can attend this one. At least we say, okay, Jakarta config will take a microprofile config, and then is kind of we'll change the microprofile config and Jakarta config comfortable to adopt, and then microprofile config will sunset. So at least everybody has the expectation, and I think it is a good message to have, and also demonstrate we do work together between these two communities. So CN4J is a great platform to have this message.
Emily, this is okay. What I'm saying, we can discuss it in general.
Yeah.
In terms of if we are moving a spec from Microprofile to Jakarta or vice versa, then we think that you know, our recommendation is to do it this way, this and this day, right? But what we are doing here now, we are discussing Jakarta config, right? Which actually only we two, me and you, are committers of Jakarta config project, which are here, right? This
I'm
group
actually
is
consider as well.
okay, but you never participated in any meeting.
Yeah,
Sorry about
not
that.
yet. Well, they're also like 3 a.m. my time or 4 a.m. my time. So
Yeah, but there is mailing list too, right? So what I'm saying that the group is actually much larger than only 3 of us here, right? And making some decisions or making some guidelines or wherever else to to Jakarta config group is not sufficient to make it here, right? So this is why I'm saying that if you folks want to discuss Jakarta config, come to the meeting, participate in Jakarta config mailing list, and this is the right place for that. Doing it here, it looks like we are kind of trying to override Jakarta config group decisions and to influence it somehow.
Well, it gets back to governance as well, right? Because the Microprofile group currently, for lack of a better word, I'll say owns Microprofile config, right? Jakarta config is, and I missed the last call, but defining, you know, goals of in scope of what it thinks it needs. At some point, the question is going to become, you know, if we decide to move this over to Jakarta, then how does that happen? Right? That's going to take both working groups. to have that discussion. And that seems like a proper place to happen here.
Yeah, I think
Is that,
it's
is
Let's
that valid
let's hear
or is
from
that, or
Dimitri.
is that invalid? Yeah.
It works for me because this discussion is going to be general. So if we are discussing moving spec X to Jakarta, it's fine, right? But if they're saying that we are talking about config, and by the way, the config should do this, and that, and by the way, it should do this, and that, right? This, I think, should be discussed on the Jakarta config call, right?
Well, yeah,
But,
I agree with that
general
entirely
process,
when it comes down
general
to features.
process, general process is absolutely fine. So if we want to discuss moving specs from Microprofile to Jakarta or vice versa in general, right? Then it's okay.
yeah, I
So
think
let's
that
do it.
I
Go
think
ahead,
the
Emily.
high level conversation is useful, and also is like we are not making decisions here. We just like I mean make a suggestions, and also is the kind of the is a pure. I agree, it's purely depend on the. I mean, we will if this impact the Jakarta config again, we will discuss in the Jakarta config course.
Yeah,
But
I just don't want folks at in Jakarta config be surprised that something's already been decided somewhere.
yeah, we shouldn't make that decision. Decide. Yeah, exactly. So I think a general conversation is useful.
Well, I think
But-
if we're going to do so, I think if we're going to have a conversation that's going to involve any sort of technical depth to either Microprofile config or Jakarta config, it's probably a good idea that those committers come to the meeting. But this is something, you know, so what I think is very important is that, let's just say, for example, Microprofile config continues forward, releasing new versions and has features, and Jakarta config continues moving forward and has new versions and new features. Then the industry is forced to decide which one is the one that they want to use. And it shows that we aren't talking, and it shows that we have no actual alliance. We have no strategy together. And they would go, you know, we would both take a lot of heat for it. This would have been the venue where we would have hashed that out, came up with a strategy, came up with an alliance, be allied on the vision for these two projects, because they are currently two projects. There's Microprofile config and Jakarta config. So if we want to create some alignment such that we're going to say one is going to live and one is going to die, or they're both going to live, or, you know, if we want to create alignment around the concept of these two projects, this would be the venue to do it.
Yeah, maybe
David, but this is the thing, what I'm saying. This is in general. It's not related to really. It's not tied to configs. It can be
Specifically config, right? Because that is like we currently have we currently have two projects, right? So we need to decide what we're going to do with both of them.
so just take a config as guinea pig example, basically, to validate our like a strategy. I think this could work is like Dimitri and David, since if we say, okay, next meeting, we're going to talk about the first two kind of the atoms, and then we can just broadcast this to the config, Jakarta config dev. So invite all of the
And
people,
Microprofile config.
yeah, and yeah, exactly, to join. I think this this would be a kind of quite inclusive meeting. Besides, we are going to record this call for people who couldn't attend, and then they can listen to this call, because we just concentrated to talk about these things, two atoms. So nobody will feel left out, and hopefully, and also we can agree on some top level strategy.
Emily, we are just going to duplicate conversations.
How are you so can you explain to me how you're having microprofile config conversations on the Jakarta list?
We are not having microprofile conversation on Jakarta list.
That's
we are
my point.
concentrating.
There needs
the-
to be a place where because we currently have 2 projects. There needs to be a way we can bring that to some sort of vision. My understanding was the alliance was that venue.
We already have some vision, right? And this vision is
For
what
both projects?
I actually posted it to the mailing list about a couple of weeks or 3 weeks ago.
To the microprofile mailing list?
Microprofile mailing list definitely is there. So one is config dev, another one is microprofile mailing list. And basically it's that we modify microprofile config to the stage until it's acceptable to Jakarta config. And when it's done, microprofile config releases the last version. Source code is moved to Jakarta project, and a Jakarta project with some small modification releases the first version. And after that, microprofile config becomes maintenance only, and all evolution is done in Jakarta.
Well, that sounds like a wonderful thing to have a meeting for here, right? You could present that to everybody and we could get some discussion on it and see if we can see if we can bring it to resolution.
Maybe this kind of used as a kind of the guidance for the future spec migration.
Yeah,
I think sorry, go for it.
No, it's just I think planting and discussing ideas in Jakarta is okay, but when at some point when the discussions get more serious, right, then I think this is the right venue to have that discussion.
I think, yeah, I think I agree. I think is Dimitri, we are not trying to kind of trying to reinvent something. Maybe this is just let educate people, and then we just like kind of formalize the process. So it's I think is okay, and then we invite the committers to attend, so everybody will be on the same page. Because not everybody will read the emails and etc. And people are interested in this message and they can attend. Cool.
Would you like to lead that meeting, Dimitri? I mean, it sounds like you have a proposal for how to go forward, right? That you sent to both groups.
I can definitely talk about the proposal.
That would be great.
I'm still not convinced that what they are doing here is right, to be fair, David. Right?
If it's not, then we'll stop meeting, right? If we're not able to, you know, in the situations where you posted something to both mailing lists, it requires both groups to agree on the way forward. This would be the venue that, I mean, first of all, this can be whatever we want it to be, but we do need to have some way where we can actually just resolve these things rather than people posting stuff to lists and then it doesn't get buy-in in both sides or get enough attention.
Okay, that's fine. The point is that in Jakarta config, we already have half of the committers from MP config, right? So, and we were talking about that. And when we agreed on that, for me, it sounds like a deal. So Microprofile folks said, this is cool. This is what we want. Jakarta folks said, yes, this is fine for us, right? That's it. Now it looks like we want to have like third entity, which actually can't make decision, can only recommend, right? To be involved there somehow. How? I don't understand how, right? That's basically my concern. So maybe you have a feeling that I'm fighting for something. It's not fighting, I'm just trying to understand the reason, right? So we're all busy and just talking the same stuff. in different meetings, it's kind of waste of time, right? So my point is that, what's the reason for that?
What is the correct venue for there to be discussion jointly between Microprofile config and Jakarta config on how, on like your proposal, you put a proposal out, right? Does it have to happen on both lists individually, and then what?
It's not kind of proposal. It's kind of what's been decided. It's what we agreed on. We were talking about that on the meeting. I just collected stuff from the meeting and posted it to both groups to collect some possibly negative feedback. There were no feedback, zero. Right, so it's okay. Right? So if this proposal needs to be approved somewhere, right, then okay, but I don't know where it's actually written that this kind of proposal shall be approved somewhere, right?
Well, what, but your proposal involved Microprofile config doing another release with some technical changes to it?
Yes.
Okay. Where was that agreed?
On the meeting, on the Jakarta config meeting, their Microprofile config folks or girls to the members participated.
Okay. You know, there have been meetings where we've had on the Microprofile side of the fence where Jakarta was mentioned, and we've had Ed come in and explicitly say, you can't have this discussion here. We should let projects do what they want.
That's correct. I agree with it.
Okay, well then how is it that you can on a Jakarta config meeting have to make decisions about the future of Microprofile config? I'm really sick and tired of.
David, they didn't. They asked if the Microprofile config team would. They basically identified some issues. The Microprofile, at least my understanding, I wasn't in this meeting, was the Microprofile config team said, yeah, we can fix that. Maybe it wasn't quite so inflected that way. And then I don't think they've, I'm not sure if they've, had a need to revisit that. Right. So it was I believe some issues were identified. Microprofile config said, sure, we can fix those. And that's where things are. Is that something that is not within the purview of the folks that are working on Microprofile config?
Well, I just wonder, why is it that we get our hands slapped for talking about stuff on Jakarta on the Microprofile side of the fence, but it's completely okay to do it on the Jakarta side of the fence?
I don't, you called my name out as saying that, and I don't, if I said that, I don't think that's what I meant.
Okay, I definitely interpreted
my
that.
goal is committers that are working in the code should have as much latitude as we can afford them. Okay.
I think can I jump in just to say something here? I think for the technical discussions is fine, like happening in the either Jakarta or Microprofile. However, I don't think we should just say, okay, you are not allowed to talk about this. One thing is, I think what David asked is pretty much kind of the reasonable thing. So basically, it's kind of the at the end of the day, we have this strategy, but that's not formalized properly. This platform is a pretty good media to formalize the process, so everybody to be on the same page. I think is kind of have this open conversation is something we should encourage. So that's yeah.
I would, for example, I'd be totally behind, exactly what you suggested. Some members of the config group come here and say, this is what we think we should do, and make a recommendation, right? Whether we, this group, has sort of veto authority over that, I guess I'm not sure I want that.
I'm not looking for that either. I'm just like,
hold on.
Go ahead.
But I wouldn't be against asking for an update from the config group, the collective, right? Both sides of this unfortunate fence, right? that's perfectly fine. I guess I don't. What I don't want is I don't want us to be inserting management oversight unless there's, unless we find that the folks that are actually doing the work are, aren't, are somehow broken down. And I guess I don't have a sense, and maybe I have a one-sided view. I don't have a sense that the config projects are broken down. But I guess I'm hearing you're in the inflection that you're adding to your to this discussion. I'm sensing that you feel that it is, so we should fix it.
Well, that and note that there is no support in the governance for working groups to direct open source projects.
Right. I mean, it's almost like two levels of that with this, because we've got the CN4J Alliance, and then
Yeah,
we've got
good
two
point.
working groups, and then we can't control the exact processes that are happening at the open source projects.
But the thing is that at the end of the day, the open source project, when they release, is a working group to vote. Yeah, that's fine. Don't have a control, and then they just head down and then do all sorts of the things. And by the time you release, and then like the working group say -1, that's not what we want. So I
Yeah.
think with this conversation, at least it's a courtesy kind of, review, kind of that we just take on board everybody who are interested. So at the end of release process, you don't get surprises. Because these are
So
all
we're,
good questions.
yeah, I mean, so we're at the bottom
So
of the hour.
can
And
we-
I had some thoughts
Go ahead.
Can I just,
that, no, I
Emily
was
and
just saying I was
Dimitri,
speaking to
can
me.
I, sorry, I'll shut up.
No, you go ahead.
Emily and
go.
Dimitri,
Okay.
you guys are both the leads of Jakarta config. Can you get together with your partners in the Microprofile config and come back next time we meet and give us an update on what's going on?
Yeah, fine, sure.
That'd be
Then
great.
also is we have a Jakarta config a meeting this week as well. We'll also
So
discuss.
we won't meet for 2 weeks, so.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, thanks everyone. Again, some food for thought for the next call in 2 weeks. So the next call, let's see if we can kind of finish up this conversation, see what may have been agreed to offline or in the forums, and then maybe we'll tackle one of these 3 bullets. I'll see if I can send out a discussion for that, see what we want to tackle first. All right. Thanks everyone, and see you in 2 weeks.
Okay, thanks.
Or in a
Jim.
half hour, depending which call you're going to. All right, thanks.
Bye,
Yeah.
everyone.
Thank you, bye.
Thanks.
Thanks, bye.